representing the ghastly anorexic horror that wanders aimlessly during the light of day and rests hunched over in isolation from the hours of dusk till dawn. A sickly, fair-skinned woman, dressed in tattered clothing, possessing glowing, sunken, crimson amber eyes, washed out whitish gray hair, and her most distinctive features, the 12-inch long, blood-stained, razor-sharp claws. She's seemingly in continual anguish, weeping in solitude in her quiet place, distant from everyone, outwardly setting her boundaries, passively lamenting to herself. So once you spot her, run. Get the fuck out and just leave her alone. You really don't want to piss her off. She's the epitome of do not disturb. The Witch. Sup guys, this is Mrcoffeestuff and I have a friend joining me today.
What's up guys, it's Roanoke Gaming here.
Alrighty, before we delve deep into the lore, mutation, and theories of the Witch, comment down your thoughts on the Witch, and for fun, how you describe one to others if you saw one in real life.
Listen, quiet.
Shh, there's a witch near here.
That crying girl's around.
Hold on. Shh, that's a witch.
I hear a witch.
Quiet, everybody. I hear a bitch.
I think I hear my ex-wife.
Coach, be nice.
The Witch is arguably one of the most dangerous and infected Left 4 Dead has to offer. Dressed in the least amount of clothing possible, she wears only some underwear and a top. Her eyes glow a pale yellow for reasons unbeknownst to the non-infected. She appears very gangly and scrawny. It's clear that her previous form was that of a more slender variety or average build. She has very pale skin and is almost smaller than your average infected human being. Do not let her smaller stature fool you though. While smaller and frail looking, she is anything but this. Behind her small frame exists a massive amount of strength. Sporting dagger-like claws, she will tear apart any human that gets too close and startles her. The virus has increased the length of her fingers as well as replaced them with claw-like structures that has the ability to incapacitate a person before they even know they've been hit. That's not the only thing you have to worry about though. Unlike some of the weaker forms, she also sports a massive resilience in combat. Able to take multiple shotgun shells to the middle of her body, bullets from an assault rifle, and really anything else you got, the only way to bring her down is overwhelming force or an extremely good shot. This resilience in combat is not explained, but I would imagine if the virus had such an effect on her form, it is probably able to keep her alive in the face of deadly grave wounds.
Quiet. There's a witch around here.
Don't disturb her and we'll be okay.
Oh, damn. A witch is around here.
Hear that, witch? I'm gonna give her something to cry about.
The Witch serves as a consequence if you shoot everything that moves, or don't move. Her resistance dictates the pacing of the game, instantaneously shifting the general fast-paced current to a dreadfully slower and heavy tempo, forcing the survivors to cautiously navigate around the thing that induced them to do so, or else. They, or depending on the medium, specifically the one who fucked up, will incur the wrath of the Witch. It's imperative for one to be alert and attentive when he or she unluckily encounters an idle witch. To say the least, they're really difficult to negotiate with. Not willing to move from its resting place until it's daybreak or until it's fed up with a rather annoying survivor. Proceeding to growl angrily and loudly and deliver a "you're unwanted here" gaze to the particular survivor that's provoking her, evidently signaling a warning to the poor man or woman to quickly get the fuck out of her presence. Depending on the ensuing actions of the subject, the witch can either excuse the irresponsibilities of the careless survivor, gradually settling back into her apathetic, kneeling and sobbing state. Otherwise, if the nuisance persists, she will let out an airy shriek and target the one responsible for starring her, or the fearless teammate that jumps in between the both of them. Get down, Mr. President! Instantly incapacitating the first prey that had the misfortune to see her unnatural length fingernails up close and personal, and subsequently shred him or her to mincemeat. Once the Lady Butcher has massacred all targets in sight, she will proceed to run off sobbing and distraught, speedily seeking the nearest shelter to ensconce herself into, or depending on the time of the day, gradually slow down to a sudden walk. The latter occurs when the witch will routinely rise alongside with the sun to take her morning to afternoon walks, taking her bitter cries onto the road. Dubbed the Wandering Witch at first light. She's unpredictable yet more indifferent in the state due to the exposure of the radiating sunlight, causing severe discomfort onto her distressed body, shielding her delicate eyes from the bright rays, diminishing its spatial awareness to near poking distance, clarity lacking the concentration to keep sight of its surroundings. Thus, it would have to begrudgingly be more tolerant of the survivor's bullshit antics, stupid flashlights, and their unwanted presence. She might be more difficult to anger and less of a threat when she's under the influence of UV rays, but one still shouldn't underestimate the terror this monster could induce. There was writing about the witch on a safe room wall that read, "I once saw one tear apart 10 people."
Dude, she don't sound happy.
Oh, there's a sound that's familiar.
What is that? Crying? What's doing that crying?
Witch. We call her a witch.
If you were a bit spooked, don't fret. If you listen carefully, you'll be alright. Be wary if you hear a young woman's cry. You might be compelled to take action, but what potentially awaits could be only suffering and regret.
Over there.
Hello? Hello? It's okay. We're gonna...
No lights. She's sensitive. As long as you don't shout or point the light at her, then you should be. Damn it, Lewis! It's always that time of the month for her, so meaning she's always moody and bitchy. Things can change in the blink of an eye. There's a couple of things the witch does not appreciate you doing. Don't touch her, don't talk to her, don't even breathe the same air as her. She really does not like people.
Cardio.
You're gonna need it. Trust me, that bitch is fast. Ask my partner.
If you accidentally startle her, the best tactic is to just run.
If things are unavoidable, then you must know how to crown.
If someone on your team has a shotgun, attempt to aim for the head. Shotguns will be able to kill a witch with a single shot to the head, but you better aim carefully because you're going to get about one of these. If you startle the witch but have a Molotov cocktail, burning her will slow her down. As long as the fire maintains contact with her, she will die after 15 seconds of exposure.
The witch has her own distinct melody, an average choir of a demented woman crying for help, which progressively becomes more intense when one is steadily getting closer to the proximity of the witch. If you leave her alone, she leave you alone. But if she's directly in your way, then
Time to nut up or shut up.
contrary, if a drifter were the one to saunter into your space, then it's best advised to keep quiet, clench your butts, and patiently wait. Sounds stupid, but it's gonna work. Bonus, if you hear quick gaps, she knows. And warning, she has a sweet tooth.
I think I hear a witch.
Shit. Witch. Ah, witch. And she's close.
Rochelle, that ain't you, is it, girl?
A crying woman. What, do you think she's sad the mall's closed?
Let's not go by the crying girl.
So let's jump into some theories, shall we? So the question was posed, why exactly do her claws grow as rapidly as they do? The claw, more than likely, are the altered versions of the cells responsible for producing our own nails. These cells would have needed to basically divide at a rate which would have been deemed cancerous by our standards in order to produce such claws. Let's tackle the anatomy of the hand. Most mammals have claws where their nails should be. During the course of our evolution, humans have adapted to not need claws, but that's not to say that the genetic coding is not within our DNA to maybe even go back to them. But since we have no need for claws, the lacuna, which is the portion of the hand responsible for growing nails, has made the nails flatter and broader. So when the infection starts to take hold of the witch, it clearly sends the nails into overdrive. The claws become sharper and longer than a normal nail would grow. The virus may have caused the lacuna to become genetically altered, sending its DNA into a more primitive form, allowing for the formation of claws. The claws themselves are dirty and are covered with blood, obviously from a previous victim. This gives credence to the strength of the nail as well. Normal human nails would snap, but these claws have remained quite sturdy and intact, able to handle the blunt force trauma from another's skin, bones, and organs. Now let's hit on the possible sensitivity to light. My thinking on this is that her body has pretty much been sapped of resources due to the virus, and the virus is working off the fat cells to replicate itself, as it would need a fair amount. So because it needs this fair amount, since the body did not possess that much, it's going to have to work off the fat particles located in her brain, and these fat particles usually perform support functions. This theory is going to be based off of the assumption that the host has not become 100% infected, but is still somewhat human, maybe like 10% human, 90% infected. When making alterations to the brain, it can be incredibly debilitating for the person. If the virus is screwing with her internal chemistry, which is to be expected, then this could produce a sensitivity to light. If you've ever had a migraine, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. When a hapless survivor comes by with a flashlight and shines it on a witch, this is going to cause immense pain to her. Due to her baser instincts having most of the control, she will attack whatever is causing the pain. This could explain why she has such a massive sensitivity to light and why it exists in the first place. But I can already hear it, and I know what you're thinking. But Roanoke, if the flashlights cause pain, why does she move during the day but not at night? Well, humans run on a daily cycle, and the fact is even if you are somewhat of a night owl, a lot of other functions require light. The human brain is going to be more active and better focused during the daylight. Our DNA has been encoded due to natural selection to favor a species that comes out during the day. How does this affect the witch? Well, assuming she's actually relying on more baser instincts, it would make sense that she would probably only move around during the day as opposed to night. What also comes into play is how maybe a little portion of her might actually still be human. On some level, she is still influenced by the remaining human DNA, but greatly influenced by the virus. The sun would also provide some chemicals to her brain that would make her less lethargic than she is at night. The same chemicals that are responsible for keeping us awake all day and making us tired when nighttime begins to approach. The gray skin of the witch can easily be explained to some degree. When an individual dies, their skin will go gray. But I can already hear you, she's not dead, she's just infected. Well, let's continue on with the biology lesson. Blood will leave the skin and usually coagulate in the veins. The same can be said for the witch. While she may not be fully infected and she's not really dead, the virus has clearly taken hold of most of her functions. One of these functions being where to delegate resources and where to not. If the virus is as strong as it appears to be, microbes responsible for decomposition are probably destroyed on contact with the witch. The virus has assumed the role of her immune system in this case and keeps her from rotting. But the skin appears to have died because there really is no reason for it. The skin remains in this state but is never shed or taken off, as it is never properly digested by the bacteria, mold, and little creatures that would normally be responsible for this. There are a lot of theories and speculation prior to her becoming a witch, so I will try to discern which ones actually fit the bill as far as best explanation. Judging by her size and frame, it appears as though she had been starving herself for reasons unbeknownst to us. This states that more than likely a witch is a woman who, for some reason or another, was very concerned with her physical state, more than likely working out a lot, eating very little, but most importantly, maintaining a low body fat percentage. Which seems to be a little more plausible is that the brain itself has had an effect on the virus. A form of ADHD existed in the young woman prior to her infection. When the virus took hold of the human, it was also left with the brain of the human who originally piloted the body. This infection worked with what it was given, however, their serotonin levels were significantly less than your average human. This would lead to the witch's crying and agitation. This theory would imply, however, that the witch is actually still semi-human, or at least a slave to the chemicals in her brain, lost in the void between death and life. It would feel the pain of the low serotonin levels and continue to be somewhat living. Only when startled by another human being does the infected side kick in and the witch attacks. This suggests a sort of parasitic symbiotic relationship favoring the virus. The virus allows the human to have some of its mind, as it is an excellent hunting technique. The witch is constantly crying, which would bring in any curious humans who might want to help. The witch would attack then immediately and infect whoever was trying to help. The main issue I can see with this is that the virus would almost need to have an understanding of human social tendencies. I suppose it could happen by complete chance, but adaptations like that usually take longer than just 2 weeks. Let's take into account that the witch is already exceedingly skinny prior to her infection. If the virus relied on utilizing fat cells for energy to replicate, then this would suggest that a smaller female, they just do not have the body fat to properly sustain the virus. If a woman were not eating in order to maintain a certain low body fat percentage, then upon her infection, the virus would not be able to experience the explosion of viruses that may exist in a larger human. This being the case, the witch would still sort of float in between an infected state and a human state, but she would be semi-sentient, and the infected would leave her alone. This would also explain the aggression she has towards humans. Your standard infected go after whatever is the closest. With a witch, you disturbing her is almost personal. The virus would have no doubt turned the fat in her intestines, muscle, and maybe any located in the brain area. This would cause immense pain, and she will still be sentient, somewhat, I suppose. This would explain the crying with or without the presence of humans, and the sheer focus on the individual who has disturbed her. Driven by the insatiable virus, her body is looking for any nutritional source, and she is always looking for her next meal and a way to stop the pain.
I don't like the sound of this crying.
Man, that crying don't sound right.
What the hell is with that crying?
Seriously, I'm thinking we should just leave the crying girl alone.
Her constant hunger pains explains why there's so many goddamn witches roaming in the sugar mills. Since sugar is an easily digestible carbohydrate, she's able to get her fix to ease the suffering for a bit and indulge in a little piece of happiness. Kinda like a teenage girl ravaging into a carton of ice cream after a breakup, meaning places that ooze a palpable scent of sugar will commonly be infested with like 15 to 20 witches, all being drawn by the irresistible smell of pure, sweet-tasting, soluble carbohydrates. The witch strain mutation seems to have notably affect women with a predisposed mental disorder like clinical depression. In addition, females appears to be the only sex at risk of becoming a witch, seemingly being biologically vulnerable to the strain due to the influence of their fluctuating sex hormones. Genetic predisposition, particularly around the times of childbirth, menstruation, miscarriage, and menopause, thus worsening their ailments and imbalances in the brain. With the introduction of the bride witch, it can be hypothesized that the immediate mental stress critical for the mutation can also be triggered by psychological trauma. The mentally distraught bride abandoned at the altar on her wedding day, continuing to wait until the groom arrives, forever alone. The witch has a strange reaction to anorexia nervosa, regardless of the subject was diagnosed with this eating disorder pre or post infection. The witch's emaciated body conflicts with its aberrant strength, speed, toughness, etc. Its poor health and extreme diet or lack thereof should have resulted in a few physical symptoms, being the loss of bone calcium resulting in fragile bones, dry and brittle nails, thinning of hair, an abnormal absence of menstruation, etc. Yet the witch has not displayed any of the mentioned consequences except maybe the latter. It could be possible that the subjects were regularly taking dietary supplements, vitamin B, magnesium, omega-3 oils, and vitamin C for irregular hormone functions, biotin to maintain protein production and help strengthen and grow healthier nails and hair, vitamin A, C, and D to promote fast nail growth, calcium and vitamin C to strengthen and grow bones. That also serves as a supplement to why the witch walks during the daytime. Sun exposure is a great product of vitamin D. Nails are a reflection of your overall health, so she's doing something. While the witch may have been responsible for tearing her own clothing off and undressing herself, having deemed her attire to be too restrictive or uncomfortable, this could indicate a raised body temperature, suggesting that the witch might have developed a severe fever, which would explain the traits she exhibits: her sluggishness, constant signs of distress, irritability, and sensitivity to light and sound. Lastly, let's touch upon this sensitive topic. Why do the witches cry? Perhaps it's what my partner has theorized. The virus breaking down the fats in the subject's vital organs, a hunting technique to lure unsuspecting survivors, or what most people have speculated, that there must be a shred of humanity left inside her. She knows she's a monster. After killing a survivor, she will momentarily stop and look at her bloody hands, eliciting her to flee from the scene, waiting with her head buried in her hands. She is always reminded with this bearing of remorse in regards to her actions. She can't help but yield to his instinctual needs. Ironically, one of the most frightening things in this world isn't one of those abhorrent monsters spending every waking moment actively hunting you. No, what we fear as a collective whole is this peculiar, docile, sad little white marshmallow that's relatively harmless unless you bully her. Debatably, one of the biggest anomalies to this amongst the special infected.
I hear a witch. Shh. Witch.
She doesn't sound happy. We should steer clear of her.
Alright guys, well that's all I've got time for today. I hope you enjoyed Mr. Coffeestuff's and mine's collaboration, going over the background, lore, and infection of the witch. If you thought that the biology and microbiology aspect of this video was cool, why not come check out my channel? I've got more videos going over augmentations of pilots from Titanfall, Spartans in Halo, genetic variety in the Locust Horde, and lore and morphology on the Necromorphs in Dead Space. Thanks for watching guys, and as always, I will catch y'all in the next one.
I would also like to thank you guys for watching, and of course I must give credit where credit is due. If you love some of the awesome animation clips used in this video, then check out these talented content creators that made the Left 4 Dead SMS animation clips.